The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the New York Times for Saturday, January 24th, 2026. Your reader is Joe Gibbs. How's everybody doing today? I am downstairs wearing a pretty heavy jacket. I'm sure most of my listeners today are probably sitting with a hat and coat on. It is actually really freezing out. Starting today with the New York Times is going to be the lovely weather we're having. Yes, we are supposed to get hit with a major snow and ice storm will continue to grow in size and intensity as it spreads from the southern and central portions of the Rockies and Plains through much of the Mississippi and Ohio valleys and onto the southern part of the Appalachians. Enough snow to shovel and plow will extend from Colorado and New Mexico to Ohio and West Virginia, before expanding in the Northeast tonight and Sunday. Widespread snowfall accumulations with the storm will range from 6 to 12 inches, with pockets where 12 to 24 inches are forecast to fall on parts of the plains and Northeast. The freezing rain and sleet portion of the storm will be massive in the southern states, stretching from Texas to the Carolinas and Virginia into tonight, and then in the coastal areas of Mid-Atlantic on Sunday. There is a potential for massive power outages and road closures that will last for days in some areas. Rain and thunderstorm are forecast along the immediate Gulf Coast, before a freeze in the central and western areas later in the weekend. In the west, spotty rain and mountain snow showers are in store from Utah and Arizona, with a pocket of snow to develop over Montana. West of these areas, most places will be dry with sunshine. What is sunshine? Exceptions will be in some of the interior valleys where low clouds and fog will persist. Focused, prolonged power outages for the south. The same storm that will bring heavy snow to the northeast will produce severe icing across portions of the south this weekend. Areas from east to Texas to southern Tennessee and also from northern Georgia to Carolinas may experience long-term power outages. For those in the local Buffalo area, you may remember the October storm where heavy snow and ice knocked down many power lines, destroyed many trees, and it looked like a disaster area. That's for sure. So, continuing with this subject here of this weather, which is going to be pretty bad across the country, from Texas to East Coast, Americans stock up and hunker down. There is actually a picture, an illustration. Looks like someone's just walking their dog on a nice, pleasant winter day. That is about to end. Powerful winter storm expected to bring extreme cold and ice and snow. Americans raided grocery and hardware stores across nearly half the United States on Friday, seeking last-minute supplies as a powerful winter storm began to march across the country. A dangerous mix of ice, heavy snow, and extreme cold threaten to cripple transportation networks, knock out power, and leave millions of Americans stuck inside. The storm formed over the Rocky Mountains on Friday and was forecast to move east through the weekend, reaching the densely populated eastern seaboard by Sunday. Many state leaders issued emergency declarations to free up extra money and prepared the National Guard. Governors from Texas to Massachusetts warned residents that the ice storm could coat roads with ice and snow and urge people not to drive through the weekend. As the storm barrels across the country, more than 160 million people across the United States were expected to face winter weather hazards in the coming days, according to the National Weather Service. In Raleigh, North Carolina, which is expected to receive up to 3 inches of snow and sleet, Henry Clark, 19, had to come up to a sporting goods store to buy down-filled mittens, but he found none. He kept searching for cold weather gear that could not overwhelm his cowed student budget, especially snow boots. This is the first time in my life where I'm like, okay, where there might actually be a lot of snow or ice on the ground, he said. The storm was expected to bring snow to New Mexico and Colorado before ushering a mix of sleet, freezing rain, and snow onto Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the storm was expected to reach Georgia and the Carolinas before pushing into the mid-Atlantic states and Northeast on Sunday, when it could intensify further, dropping more than 2 feet of snow in parts of New England. In Texas, the storm could bring low temperatures similar to lows during a 2021 winter storm that effectively knocked out the state's electrical grid and left millions of people without electricity in sub-freezing conditions. State officials said that 246 people died during that crisis. By midday Friday, the state had already reported that more than 24,000 electricity customers had lost power, which was more than half of the outages nationwide. At a busier than usual Walmart outside Dallas, Omulira Sawalu, 35, loaded her cart with food that could be prepared without electricity, which she had not done before the 2021 storm. Very stressful, Miss Lewis said. She had more experience this time, but the stakes were also higher, she said, pointing to her 18-month-old son. I need to prepare because it isn't just me. Curtis Rigney, 50, who lived in Dallas area during the 2021 storm, was scrambling to find a generator. At one hardware store north of the city, 12 different models were on display, but all had signs saying out of stock. None of the options on Amazon could be delivered in time. The whole city was shut down with a little bit of snow, much less ice, he said. Philadelphia canceled school on Monday, citing that the possibility the storm could drop as much as 18 inches of snow on the city. Houston said its schools would also close on Monday because of the potential for freezing temperatures and ice. Any amount of snow or ice can paralyze that city, which rarely sees severe winter weather and does not maintain its own fleet of plows. Pittsburgh's mayor, Corey O'Connor, warned residents to prepare for the worst-case scenario. In a briefing on Friday morning, he said Pittsburgh and some other northern cities were competing for salt with cities in the south, which don't usually face winter storms and have been buying large quantities of salt in recent days. Managers of electric grids warned that many homes and businesses could lose power as heavy snow and freezing rain snap tree branches and power lines that could leave many without heat as extremely low temperatures and dangerously cold wind chills grip the country from the plains to the northeast. When you get one day of cold weather, it's not as significant, said Douglas Giffrey, who leads U.S. power and renewables research for S&P Global Energy. But we're talking about 3 or 4 days here of very low temperatures. It was going to be so cold that even the hardy Chicago Polar Bear Club announced that it had canceled its annual polar bear plunge in Lake Michigan on Saturday when temperatures were expected to drop below zero. Even the polar bear divers are not dealing with it. The safety of polar bears has to be our highest priority, the group said in an email. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York declared a state of emergency on Friday, ahead of what meteorologists said could be one of the worst storms to hit the state in a decade. This is a very dangerous combination of heavy snow and extreme cold temperatures, Ms. Hochul said, adding with 12 to 18 inches of snow in the forecast, no corner of the state would be immune with Mother Nature's wrath. This is a very giant storm. I can't believe how far across the state and the country this goes. She urged people to work from home if they could and authorized state employees, apart from those involved in storm preparedness, to do so. She also advised against going outside, noting that the wind chill could reach 50 degrees below in parts of the North Country. Transportation networks were already shutting down ahead of the storm. Amtrak said it had fully or partly canceled more than 75 trains across the East Coast, the Midwest, and South between Friday and Sunday, citing the need to protect the rail equipment, the safety of the customers and workers. Airlines were also preemptively canceling flights ahead of the storm, with more than 1,600 flights in the U.S. called off from Saturday to Sunday, according to a FlightWare flight tracking website. So yes, this is going to be a horrible storm for many. It's best just to hang in the house, listen to some stories, and stay warm and safe. Here is a story, a continuation, a different article, here to help. How to prevent frozen pipes from flooding your home. This is very important. This can cause a lot of issues when there won't be a lot of assistance at time of need, that's for sure. So when it's cold enough for a frost, it's cold enough for your plumbing to freeze and to potentially crack open and flood your home. But even if you have poorly insulated pipes, it's easy to prevent a plumbing blowout. Start by following a few common sense steps before a cold snap. Number 1, disconnect your garden hose. Paul Abrams, a public relations director at Roto-Rooter, said the garden hose attached to a home's house bib, also commonly called the spigot or faucet, are the biggest cause of burst pipes that his company's water cleanup division sees. A full hose of frozen water adds a tremendous amount of pressure to the plumbing inside your home near the BIP, Mr. Abrams explained. All that energy needs to go somewhere, which is why pipes usually burst, usually at a joint where the weakest spot in the pipes, he wrote in an email. At a minimum, disconnect the hose even if you have to frost-free faucet. Better yet, shut off each spigot's indoor water supply and drain the remaining water from the bib. Here's another tip. Keep the heat turned on everywhere. Many utility companies and insurance providers recommend a minimum temperature of 55 degrees Fahrenheit, even in an unoccupied room. The Department of Energy doesn't specify a safe temperature, but it does caution against setting your thermostat too low, even if you're trying to save energy. I don't have to worry about that. My wife will have this from 68 to 70 without a doubt through the month. Another tip, consider dripping your faucets. Letting your taps trickle reduces the risk of pipe burst because the open faucet works like a relief valve for pressure inside the water lines. This usually isn't necessary in a cold climate because local plumbers have learned to protect pipes from low temperatures. The same can't always be said for warm weather states, where water lines sometimes run through exterior walls, frigid attics, or uninsulated crawl spaces. Final thing here, have a backup plan for when you're away. Jesse Kohlbecker, the Vice President of Claims and Client Services at County Financial, a home insurance provider, said the heating system failures from power outages or HVAC breakdowns are another major cause of burst pipes. If you're traveling, he suggested that asking a friend or family to check on your house every few days and showing them how to turn off the utilities. You could also set up alerts through smart thermostat or smart sensors. Very good advice. And now I am moving on to a couple just small tidbits that are here in the New York Times. When a blizzard hit New York City in 1969, much of its snow removal equipment was in despair. It took 3 days for the city to return to normal operation. That sounds like a normal storm in Western New York. Another tidbit. The NFL is by far the most watched and most valuable forms of entertainment in the United States. Did you know that more than 80% of the top-rated television shows in 2025 were NFL football games? Yes, fixed, not fixed. Everyone loves the NFL. And a final little tidbit here. In a New York Times Siena poll of 1,625 registered voters nationwide, 63% disapproved of the way Immigration and Customs Enforcement was handling its job. Okay, we have now from the New York Times what we might we suggest 4 weekend recommendations from around the newsroom. Tackling a hefty read. The nights are long, the days are freezing, and it is great to just listen to some information, read a nice book. The air is freezing, and for much of the country, a winter storm is on its way. It's finally time. Pick up your lengthiest novel and your sturdiest bookmark and get cracking. Yes, we're talking to you with gazillion page George R. Martin epics that keep languishing on your bookshelf for a decade. Explore some heavy duty recommendations at NewYorkTimes.com/books. Number 2, catching up on Oscar nominees, The countdown to the 98th Academy Awards has begun. If you've been putting off seeing some of the year's busiest films like Sinners or One Battle After Another, this week's Oscar nominations can provide a guide for what to watch. Work your way through the Best Picture list at NewYorkTimes.com-movies. Number 3, celebrating a semi-quincentennial. That's easy for you to say. Finding yourself 26 years into the 21st century may have you feeling a bit ancient, but hey, at least you're not 250. It's a big birthday for the United States this year, and the Styles Deck is tracking all of its festivities across the country. Some are already underway, like a special exhibition of the Museum of American Revolution in Philadelphia. And there's more to come this summer, including a revamped newly All-American Disney ride, and in Washington, the burial of a time capsule that is set to be unearthed on July 4th, 2276. Yep, I'll meet you there. Mark your calendar at NewYorkTimes.com-style. And number 4, planning a micro vacation. I think this weekend everyone would like to plan a very long vacation in a very warm place. Limited time to get away doesn't mean you have to stay close to home. No, you don't. Enter the micro vacation, a zippy, far-flung trip with a whirlwind itinerary. Squeeze into a couple of days. Some travelers are running low on days off or looking to save money by shaving off their hotel stays. Others are intrigued by the challenge of it all. Start daydreaming about all the places you'll go within 36 hours, that is, and find 2026 travel trends at NewYorkTimes.com-travel. Now we're going to take a look at a headline from history. January 4th, 1952, a reloose $400,000 estate found after he's buried in Potter's Field. Again, January 24th, 1952, Harry Chapin Smith, a Harvard graduate who lived in squalor for nearly 30 years, died at 84 the previous fall, leaving behind an estate of at least $400,000. The Times reported, by day, the reclusive Mr. Smith had slept in a one-room apartment in a dilapidated house in Brooklyn. By night, he was a scavenger, selling odds and ends he found. But a bank executive who knew Mr. Smith described him as having an unerring judgment of market trends. After Mr. Smith's death, an inventory of his safety deposit vault found that he held $290,000 in savings and loan accounts and over $100,000 in stocks. His estate would be worth more than $4.8 million today. Although there are no known heirs as of yet, it was predicted that there would be hundreds of claimants to estate, the Times noted. I'm sure there'll be people lining up to see if they can get themselves a few of those dollars. And now we are on to the digest, some stocks and bonds news. Mixed trading on Wall Street as gold prices rise to record. The U.S. stock market drifted through mixed trading Friday as a zigzag week punctuated by loud threats and pullbacks finished with a quiet and tentative close. The S&P 500 was basically flat and edged by less than 0.1%, but still notched a second straight week with a modest loss. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dipped 285 points, or 0.6%, and the NASDAQ Composite rose 0.3%. The majority of stocks on Wall Street fell, and Intel weighed on the market after tumbling 17%. The chip company reported better results for the end of 2025 than analysts expected. But investors focused instead on its forecast for the first 3 months of the year, which fell short of Wall Street's expectations. Chief Financial Officer David Zisner said shortages of supplies are affecting the entire industry, and Intel expects available supply to hit bottom early this year before improving in the spring and beyond. CEO Lip-Bu Tan highlighted the company's opportunities created by artificial intelligence era. Moves in the U.S. bond market were relatively modest following sharp swings early in the week, but other markets still showed potential signs of nervousness. The U.S. dollar's value fell against the Japanese yen, Swiss franc, and other currencies. It had slid sharply in the week after President Trump threatened to 10% tariffs on European countries for opposing his push to own Greenland. That drop paired with declines for prices of U.S. Treasury bonds and suggested global investors may be backing out of U.S. markets. But some relief came on Wednesday after Mr. Trump announced that framework of a future deal in respect to Greenland and called off the tariffs, although few details are available about it. Gold's price, meanwhile, rose to another record Friday and neared $5,000 per ounce. Anybody have any gold available? $5,000 per ounce. In a signal that investors are still looking for something safer to own, it's already up nearly 15% for the year so far. On Wall Street, Capital One Financial sank 7.6% after reporting a weaker profit for the end of 2025 than analysts expected. It also said it was buying Brex, which businesses issue corporate cards, for $5.15 billion in cash and stock. On the winning side of the market was CSX, which climbed 2.4%, even though the railroad reported a weaker profit than analysts expected. Some analysts highlighted the company's forecast for how much operating profit it expects to retain from each dollar of revenue during 2026. Clorox gained 1.1% after saying it was buying the maker of Perel. Gojo Industries for $2.25 billion in cash. Everyone has that laying around, right? All told, the S&P 500 rose 2.26 points to 6,915.61, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 285.30 to 49,098.71, and the Nasdaq Composite rose 65.22 to 23,501.24. A survey of U.S. consumers said expectations for inflation in the upcoming year improved to 4%. That's the lowest such reading in a year, according to University of Michigan's survey. Even it remains well above the 2% inflation that the Federal Reserve targets. The kind of improvement could help avoid a worst-case scenario for Fed has been desperate to avoid, one where expectations for higher inflation trigger a vicious cycle of behavior that only worsens inflation. Yes, prices are probably never going down. I guess that's something we have to get used to. Overall sentiment among U.S. consumers was also a touch stronger than economists expected. That could help keep them spending and main engine of the U.S. economy humming. A separate preliminary report from S&P Global suggested growth is continuing for U.S. business activity. The yield of the 10-year Treasury fell to 4.24% from 4.26% late Thursday. The Fed's next chance to move the short-term interest rate in controls will come on Wednesday, but the widespread expectation is that it will hold steady. So none of us can stop working, and things are never going to get cheaper, is what it seems, right? Get your gold, people. It's very important. Find your gold. So, on to a little sports. Sports arrives with a strong lineup. A commentator, the WNBA's leading scorer, and an NFL franchise draw a closer look. There is a picture of Taurasi, examines the basketball career of Diana Taurasi, a 6-time Olympic gold medalist. And that is a picture of her. And there's everyone interviewing her with phones and microphones surrounding her. Live sports are one of the last communal experiences on television, and streaming services have found a way to feed off that excitement. Sports documentaries. These documentaries take different forms, including nostalgic looks at great teams and athletes and real-time observations of current players. Here are some of the more interesting sports documentaries you can stream now. Booyah, a portrait of Stuart Scott. You can watch that on ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. As part of ESPN's 30 for 30 series, the sports network profiles Stuart Scott. He died of cancer in 2015. Stuart Scott was a great broadcaster for ESPN, very well liked and missed by many. Scott worked at ESPN for 21 years and incorporated slang while presenting sports highlights using vernacular like booyah and cool as the other side of the pillow. That resonated for younger audiences. Again, you can watch the story of Stuart Scott on ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. Next is America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys. You can watch that on Netflix. Since Jerry Jones bought the NFL's Dallas Cowboys in 1989, the team has built one of the largest fan bases in pop culture. The 8-episode docuseries examines Jones, the NFL's most outspoken owner, and the Cowboys by focusing on the 1990s when the team won 3 Super Bowls and endured a slew of controversies. Of course, the Buffalo Bills will be probably shown in that as the Dallas Cowboys feasted on us in the Super Bowl. The next one is called Taurasi. You can watch it on on Amazon Prime Video. The WNBA has exploded in popularity thanks to new faces such as Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. This 3-part docuseries looks at one of the league's pillars, Diana Taurasi, who retired last year as the league's all-time leading scorer and was a 6-time Olympic gold medalist. That is amazing. The next program is called Free Solo. You could watch that on Disney Plus and Netflix. While it doesn't involve a ball, Free Solo offers an adrenaline-filled experience as Alex Honnold prepares to climb a 3,000-foot mountain without a rope or safety gear. No thank you. The filmmakers who followed his journey up El Capitan in Yosemite Valley in California frequently captured inherent tension. What if he fell? Yeah, I would definitely fall, and I'm not climbing anything higher than 2 feet. Saquon, the next program, which is on Amazon Prime Video. During his NFL career, the running back Saquon Barkley has torn a major ligament in his knee, left the team that drafted him, which was the New York Giants, and then won a Super Bowl with one of its biggest rivals, the Eagles. Through it all, Barkley kept a video diary, footage that became key material for this documentary. He is a great running back, and that would probably be very interesting to watch. The next program is Alex vs. A-Rod, and this would be on HBO Max. As the title implies, Alex vs. A-Rod explores the two sides of Alex Rodriguez, whose life became a tabloid fodder throughout his dominant career with the Seattle Mariners, Texas Rangers, and the New York Yankees. The 3-part docuseries looks at his rise to stardom and his suspension for using performance-enhancing drugs. And the final one is called Elway. You can watch this Elway on Netflix. John Elway won 2 Super Bowls and captivated fans with his fourth-quarter heroics as a quarterback for the Denver Broncos. This documentary explores his transition from player to team executive and his turbulent family life. John Elway was one of the best. I'll always remember watching him, and he did some miraculous things. I'm glad he actually won a Super Bowl. He definitely deserved it. So now, on the more into sports for New York Times, there is a giant illustration of Katie Uhlaender of the U.S., and she is on what they call the skeleton. That's that flat sled that you see them go down like the bobsled courses on. It's you on a piece of plastic and 2 blades. I don't think so. Face first. It doesn't look that intriguing. But This is a story of Katie Ulander of the U.S. said that Canada, she states that with Canada pulling its sliders from an event, it cost her a spot in the Winter Games. A ruling impacted Olympic qualifications, and sliders are appealing to the IOC. So on January 11th, Katie Ulander of the United States and 22 other women skeleton athletes were in Lake Placid, New York, preparing for a race that some would be their last reasonable chance to earn points towards qualifying for the Winter Olympics. Just before the race began, though, a decision undercut that prospect. At the last minute, Canada pulled its 4 riders from the event, citing an unusually aggressive schedule. For the athletes in Lake Placid, it was their 3rd race in 6 days, and saying it was not in their best interest to compete. Some of the other competitors, however, saw it as a subterfuge. The drop from 23 to 19 sliders in the race reduced the number of points awarded to each finisher by 25%. Under rules from International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation. That helped Canada, which has been a risk of losing one of its 2 Olympic sled athletes who were already poised to qualify and not racing on Lake Placid. By pulling its Lake Placid participants, Canada made it more difficult for racers from other countries to catch up in all-important point standings. I think they should have made them race. That definitely does not seem right. Ulander and others complained. Canada denied the accusations of manipulation and was later cleared of wrongdoing by a panel from the Federation. Of course, the 25% reduction in points held through delivering a harsh blow for those on the wrong side of the Olympic qualification bubble. For the 41-year-old Ulander, who was trying for her 6th Olympics, the move ultimately cost her a spot in the Milan Cortina Games, even though she won all 3 races in Lake Placid. That does not seem very fair. The maneuvering, with implications for several athletes in multiple countries, has sparked arguments about the merits of skeleton's qualification system and the outsized impact a single coach's decision can have on careers and Olympic hopes of athletes. Ulander and others are also upset about how the Federation handled their complaints. I'd be lying if I didn't say I wanted to go to the Olympics, Ulander said. But what's more important is that I am a 5-time Olympian competing with young women at different stages in their career and are going to continue. I don't want to see this behavior supported by the International Federation. This is not the integrity of the sport. The Lake Placid race was part of Skeleton's North American Cup, a second-tier continental circuit below the World Cup level. Despite that lower status, these races can be an important pathway for Olympian qualifications, which is based on world ranking points across all circuits. Finishing in the top positions in second-tier races is generally worth more points than low-end finishes in the World Cup. It is common for these races to feature reduced fields. The past 2 weekends in Yanqing, China, for instance, a series of Asian Cup races attracted just 7 sliders for each, bringing in even more drastic points reduction by roughly 70%. The first 4 races of the North American Cup season in November had fewer than 21 sliders as well. The timing and circumstances of the Lake Placid incident are what brought accusations of manipulation. Canada was in a precarious spot for their Olympic quota in women's singles, in danger of dropping from 2 sleds to 1. South Korea, among the closest nations to take in their second spot, had 2 sleds in the Lake Placid race. Though it was a long shot that they could get enough points to overtake Canada, the Canadians ended up as the lowest ranked team to qualify 2 sleds for Milan Cortina Games. Bobsled Canadian Skeleton, the national governing body, denied the manipulation charges, and the International Bobsled and Skeleton Federation's Integrity Unit cleared them in part because of a clause in its code of conduct that allows withdrawals at any time. There's a side note here. I am asking for something simple and fundamental, and that the integrity of the sport and the Olympic spirit be upheld. Kate Ulander in a statement to the International Olympic Committee. There is another picture here There's actually two illustrations. There's one of Eulander on the skeleton sled flying across an angled bobsled course. That looks really cool. She looks like she's flying. And there's another one where she is. This one says Eulander won all three of her races in Lake Placid. Okay, but Canada's withdrawal lowered the value of her victories. And it looks like she is meeting with fans. They're holding signs. She's holding her helmet. She got here United States of America uniform on that she does her skeleton in. It's very cool. And she's greeting a lot of people. Definitely weird. So continuing on from the New York Times for Saturday, January 24th of 26. The headline says, after pleas from Mamdani and Hochul, talks resume in nurses' strike. And there's a picture hung for nurses, the American flag, cars going by. The nurses are protesting, and they are standing outside waving their flags. There was a little heading there. Nurses protested on Tuesday outside Mount Sinai West Hospital in Middletown, Manhattan. Are you ready for this? Some 15,000 workers are on strike. Could you imagine going to a hospital with hardly any nurses? 15,000 workers are on strike. That is definite chaos in a medical system, especially in the size of something like Manhattan or New York City. So the story states, responding to pleas from Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Governor Kathy Hochul to head back to the bargaining table, the two sides in New York City nurses' strike resumed negotiations on Thursday in hopes of returning 15,000 workers to their patients' bedside. That's very important. Ms. Hochul's office said that she has been having discussions with the nurses' union in hospitals every day during the walkout. The governor continues to strongly urge both sides to continue negotiations until an agreement is reached that acknowledges the pivotal role nurses play in ensuring our health care systems deliver high-quality care to New Yorkers and their families, Nicolette Simmons, a spokeswoman for Ms. Hochul, said. The president of the New York State Nurses Association, Nancy Hagans, she said that the union had received a message early this week from Ms. Hochul and Mr. Mamdani asking the union to go back to the bargaining table. The hospitals did not comment about whether they also received a message. We made it very clear that we're always willing, available, and ready to negotiate, and that it was up to them to reach out to the employers, Ms. Hagans said in an interview. The employers obviously listened to the governor and the mayor. After negotiating on Thursday, hospitals officials said that they are returning to the bargaining table on Friday. We have made some progress, but there's still a distance to go, Montefiore Medical Center said in a statement. The union said it intends to meet each day with hospital negotiators until a tentative agreement is reached. With continued support of mediators, nurses plan on bargaining daily to settle their fair contracts that protect patient and nurse safety, the union said in a statement. Kenneth E. Rasky, the president of the Greater New York Hospital Association, a trade group, he said that he hopes an agreement will be reached, but he said that negotiations will be a struggle until the union accepts the reality that hospitals are in a financial bind with passing of President Trump's domestic policy law, known as the Big Beautiful Bill. The hard reality is that hospitals are in a tremendous financial squeeze by the bill, and the amount of economic calamity that they're facing is something that we have never seen before, Mr. Rasky said. So the mayor's office did not respond to questions about Mr. Mamdani's role in urging both sides to resume negotiations. The strike, which began on January 12th, affects some of the top hospitals in New York City, including New York Presbyterian-Columbia, Montefiore, and the main campus of Mount Sinai Hospital, along with two other hospitals in Mount Sinai system. That is a lot. During early bargaining sessions, the nurses' union met separately with negotiators from each hospital on different days. Thursday was notable because the union and representatives from the three affected hospital systems met in a separate room in one building the same day starting at 4 p.m. Last week, the three medical systems met with the nurses' union for hours, but failed to reach common ground. After a bargaining session between the nurses and New York Presbyterian Columbian, the hospital said that the union's proposal were unreasonable and that both parties left far apart. Mount Sinai chief executive Brandon G. Carr had said that bargaining last Friday had made minimal progress. The strike revolves around a range of issues, including workplace safety, staffing levels, and pay and benefits. Nurses have complained for years that many hospital units are persistently understaffed, with nursing caring for too many patients at the same time. They've also sought more protection in dealing with patients who are mentally ill and may become aggressive. Pay is another key matter, although it is rarely mentioned on nurses' picket lines. Hospital officials have said that nurses are seeking raises that could propel salaries on average past $200,000 a year. Mr. Mamdani backed nurses on the picket line on Tuesday for a second time, alongside Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, and called for resolution to the walkout. Speaking to hundreds of nurses, the mayor said that the strike is not about money, but the worth of nurses in New York City. He said that the striking was the last resort and that nurses want to be back at work. We call on every side to come back to that negotiating table. Have a swift and urgent resolution, Mr. Mamdani said. As nurses continue to walk picket lines in the bitter cold, many express concerns about their patients inside. The New York City Emergency Management Department has not received reports of major issues related to the walkout. Glendis Rodriguez, 35, a nurse at New York Times Presbyterian, said that she intends to stay on strike as long as it takes to union representatives and the hospital executives to reach an agreement, although it pains her and her colleagues. We had staff crying throughout the week, Ms. Rodriguez said. We're worried about the patients that couldn't leave the hospital and that are there with short staff. Very interesting. Hopefully they can come up with a solution because it is very important for the nurses to get back to work and to help these patients. So it is absolutely freezing, as we know. And I think the best thing anyone can do is sit home and eat. And New York Times has a bunch of different dishes for us to make. Let us start with soy sauce and brown butter Brussels sprouts pasta. I'm not sure I'm a fan of mixing Brussels sprouts with pasta, but let's see what it says. Brown butter and soy sauce are an intriguing pair, and they make this new recipe from Hetty Lou McKinnon taste far more complex than you might expect, given its simplicity. A friend told me that he doubled the Brussels sprouts and was very happy with the results, though adding other vegetables would also work nicely. So, cook time is 30 minutes, and this would yield 4 servings. What do we need here? Salt and pepper, 1 tablespoon. It says salt and pepper, and then 1 tablespoon extra virgin olive oil. 1 pound Brussels sprouts, trimmed and thinly sliced. 2 garlic cloves, thinly sliced. 1 long pasta, such as spaghetti or bucatini, 8 tablespoons unsalted butter, cut into 1-inch chunks. 3 tablespoons soy sauce, 2 scallions, white and green parts separated, thinly sliced, grated Parmesan for serving. And what are we going to do with all of these beautiful ingredients? I'm going to tell you. Number 1, we're going to bring a large pot of salted water to a boil over high. Number 2, we're going to heat a 12-inch skillet, preferably stainless steel or one with a light colored cooking surface, so you can monitor the butter as it browns on medium-high. When it's hot, drizzle that with olive oil and then add Brussels sprouts and garlic. Season with salt and pepper and cook stirring frequently until the Brussels sprouts are tender and caramelized around the edges, and that's for 6 to 7 minutes. Your third step is to scrape the Brussels sprouts into a bowl, ensuring that the skillet is as clean as possible. You may need to rinse or wipe it out, but take care as the pan will be very hot. Your fourth step here is add the pasta to the boiling water and cook according to the package instructions until al dente. Drain and reserve a half cup of pasta cooking water. Number 5, place the skillet back on medium-high heat. Add the butter, swirling the pan to encourage it to melt. Once it has melted, continue swirling gently until the milk solids turn a deep golden brown and smell nutty. This should take only 4 to 6 minutes. Remove immediately from the heat and allow it to cool for 1 minute. Very carefully. Drizzle in the soy sauce. It may sizzle. And add the white parts of the scallions. Stir to lift any burnt bits stuck to the pan. On the 6th, add the pasta and the Brussels sprouts to the soy sauce brown butter, along with 2 to 3 tablespoons of pasta cooking water, and place on medium heat, tossing until the strands are well coated about 2 minutes. And your last step, which I hope says to eat it, is serve. Place the pasta in the serving bowls and season generously with pepper, top with grated Parmesan and the green parts of the scallions. And there you go, 30 minutes, 4 servings of soy sauce and brown butter Brussels sprouts pasta. I'm not sure about it, but it does sound interesting. I think something I have a little more liking to is kitchen sink skillet cookie. That's anything with a cookie, but kitchen sink skillet cookie is the one we are going to look at right now. Crisp around the edges and extra gooey in the middle. That sounds wonderful. This Sanatha recipe might be the fastest way to satisfy chocolate chip cookie cravings. I like cracking extra crunchy potato chips and pretzels all over the top of it to add a bit of salt to meet the candy sweetness. Okay, this is 50 minutes, and it's 8 servings. I don't plan on sharing. And what do we need to make this beautiful dish? A half cup, 113 grams unsalted butter at room temperature. Half cup, 110 grams packed dark brown sugar. Half cup, 100 grams granulated sugar. We need 1 large egg, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 1.5 cups, 192 grams of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoons baking soda, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, such as Diamond Crystal, or 3 cups mixed sweet and salty mixins, such as potato chips, pretzels, dark chocolate, discs or chips or M&Ms, chocolate-covered caramels, toffee bits, malted milk balls, and I'm sure the list can really continue. So what are we going to do with all these delicious morsels? We're going to heat the oven to 350 degrees in a large bowl. With a wooden spoon or electric mixer on medium, combine the butter, brown sugar, and granulated sugar and beat until smooth and creamy. About 1 minute. Add that egg, vanilla, and beat to combine it. Number 2, add the flour, baking soda, and salt to the butter mixture and mix until it's just combined. You're going to stir in the mix-ins, all that great stuff, reserving about 1/4 of the mix-ins for sprinkling on top. Your third step, spread the batter evenly in a 10-inch oven-safe skillet. It will be thin. Sprinkle with the reserved mix-ins. And your fourth, bake until golden brown and set, but still slightly gooey in the center. Maybe 20 to 22 minutes. Let that stand for at least 5 to 10 minutes before serving warm or at room temperature. The cookie is the best the day it's made, but leftovers will last well wrapped up to 3 days at room temperature. There's no possibility that that cookie is going to last for 3 days. In my house, it will not last for 3 hours. Let's take a look at what else we have here. On this freezing day, how about some chicken adobo? How about it? Chicken adobo is delicious any time of the year, but I find it really hits the spot when it's cold out. Everybody hear that? This could be a great dish for the weekend. Those assertive soy vinegar flavors sliced through the winter blahs. I serve Naz Duranian's take on this classic dish with rice, of course, and I usually add some sliced cucumbers on the side for a bit of juicy crunch. This takes 1.5 hours plus 1 to 8 hours of marinating. and it will serve 4 to 6 people. Let's see what we're doing here. So we're going to need 6 bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, or combination of thighs and drumsticks, about 2.5 pounds total. We're going to need a 1/3 cup of low-sodium or regular soy sauce. And we're going to need 6 garlic cloves. You're going to smash them. 2 tablespoons vegetables or grapeseed oil. 3 fresh or dried bay leaves. 1 teaspoon black peppercorns. 1/2 cup of cane vinegar or white cider or rice vinegar, plus more is needed. And 2 tablespoons granulated sugar, plus more to taste. Optional cooked rice for serving. What are we doing with this? Not really a ton of ingredients, but it does look like you're going to do a decent amount of steps with it. So what are we doing? We're going to trim the excess fat from the chicken. Place the chicken in a large resealable bag or container and add the soy sauce and garlic. Move the chicken around to coat. Seal the bag or cover the container and marinate in the fridge for 1 to 8 hours. So there is a picture on this one, and it has showing the chicken like marinating in the bowl. It looks like it's ready. It's getting ready to be cooked. Your second step, in a large pan with a lid, heat the oil over medium-high. When simmering, adjust the heat to medium. Scrape off any garlic clinging to the chicken, reserving the garlic along with the marinade, and add the pieces to the pan. You're going to brown the chicken for about 3 minutes per side, and you might have to do this in batches to avoid overcrowding the pan. You don't want an overcrowded pan. Number 3, when all the chicken has been browned, if working in batches, return the chicken pieces to the pan. Add the marinade with the garlic, the bay leaves, the peppercorns, and the 3/4 cup water. Adjust heat to high. You're going to bring that to a boil, right? And then decrease heat to lower. Cover and cook until the chicken is tender, and that's about 40 minutes. Your 4th step, you're going to adjust that heat to medium and add the vinegar and sugar if you're using it. Simmer uncover for 10 minutes until the flavors come together. The sharpness of the vinegar will soften as adobo cooks. Taste the adobo sauce. It should have a pleasant tang from the vinegar, enough to make you take notice but not overpower the other flavors. If it is too sour, balance the adobo by adding more sugar. If not sour enough, add a little more vinegar. You can reduce the sauce further by cooking it longer if desired. Serve over rice, spooning the sauce over the chicken. It does look like that would be a pretty fun dish, something different. Here's something a little different. Coconut curry with potatoes and greens. I think I'm more of a fan of meat and potatoes, but let's see what this is. There is an illustration on this. It's a dish. Looks like that's already been done, produced, and it looks totally different to me. I'm not sure if it's my style of dish. It may be for you. Let's see what it is. This says, I've had a real hankering for potato soup of all sorts. Hetty McKinnon's 5-star coconut curry with potatoes and greens beckons. A chowder, aromatic, and vegan dish that leans on Yukon Golds and your favorite vegetarian Thai curry paste. Any color for big flavor with little effort. This says it's going to take you about 40 minutes to make this dish. And it's going to serve 4 people. So you're going to need 2 tablespoons of neutral oil, 2 shallots that are diced, 2 garlic cloves finely chopped. You're going to have a 1-inch piece of ginger peeled and finely chopped, 2 to 3 tablespoons Thai curry paste, again any color, 2 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes peeled and cut into 1.5-inch pieces, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 4 cups vegetable stock, 4 fruit lime leaves, optional, and 1 13-ounce can unsweetened coconut milk, well shaken. You're going to need 2 limes halved and 6. You're also going to need 6 cups of robust leafy greens such as kale, chard, or collard from a 12-ounce bunch, destemmed and roughly chopped. Handful of cilantro leaves as well. 1 fresh chilies such as Fresno, thinly sliced. So what are we doing with all this? I'm going to tell you right now. Your number one step, heat a large pot or Dutch oven on medium-high. Drizzle with the oil and add shallots. Reduce heat to medium and stir for 2 minutes until softened. Don't let them turn golden. Add the garlic and ginger and stir until aromatic, 30 to 45 seconds. You're going to add the curry paste, right, and stir constantly until it starts to stick to the pot and turns darker in color, 2 to 3 minutes. Your second step, add the potatoes and sugar and stir to combine. Pour in the stock and add 2 whole lime leaves, if using. Increase heat to medium-high and bring to a boil. Then reduce the heat to medium-low. Cover and simmer until potatoes are tender, like 15 to 17 minutes. Your third step, thinly slice the 2 remaining Macroot lime leaves if you're using it. Your fourth step, when the potatoes are tender, add the coconut milk and slice Macroot lime leaves, again if using, and squeeze the juice of 1 lime. Add the greens and stir just until wilted but still very green, about 2 minutes. Season with salt and pepper. Your final fifth step, to serve, squeeze in more lime juice and top with cilantro leaves and fresh chile. That looks like a different dish. Definitely something to try in such a cold, stormy weekend. So at the very end here, we're getting towards the end of our Saturday New York Times. There is some big football games coming up this weekend. The injured quarterback, Denver Broncos, are facing a very tough New England Patriots team. Yes, that is very difficult for a boy from Buffalo to be reading how the New England Patriots are playing to go back to the Super Bowl, and the Bills are in such disarray in 1 week. There is a big article in the New York Times, legacy looms large, but for these Patriots, it's only the beginning. There is an illustration. Patriots coach Mike Vrabel left and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels have both won Super Bowl rings before. Good for them. There is also another illustration of Buffalo fan favorite to foe, Stefon Diggs. He's played in 2 conference championship games, but not many of his teammates have played in even one. There is a picture of Drake May, Stefon Diggs, and probably 4 or 5 other New England Patriots. There is a large article here about them and the comeback they have made through the year and what they have done with Mike Vrabel in just 1 season, which, love him or hate him, is remarkable. That article is on B7 of the New York Times Sports on Saturday, January 24th of 26. And it's a pretty large article about the Patriots. If anyone has any interest, it is there. I hope everyone stays warm. Be safe. Follow some of those guidelines that we read about today. And make some good food and listen to some good stories. You have been listening to the reading of the New York Times for Saturday, January 24th, 2026. For more information, you can call 716-821-5555. Your reader has been Joe Gibb. I am very happy to do this for you every week. I look forward to speaking to you again next Saturday. Have a great day. Thank you so much.